Going on here.
Here is how to comment during the Frankly Speaking show. On your computer, look to the right of the video. That's your live chat hub. Click the Say Something box at the bottom, type your message, and hit enter. Boom, you're live. On the mobile app, it's just as easy. Tap the live chat button right under the video to open the window. Pro tip, if you're in full screen mode, tap the screen once and hit the chat icon to see messages without leaving the action. Can't type? Check two things. Make sure you're signed in and see if subscribers only mode is on. You might need to sub and wait a few minutes. Keep it respectful, follow the mod's rules, and have fun.
Good day. Good day. Last Sunday, Dr. Francene Gayle, CEO of the Everbrook Brain Institute, gave us a comprehensive rundown on technology now available in Jamaica that is producing significant changes in results in the treatment of brain disorders. From strokes to autism, from Alzheimer's to Parkinson's, from migraines to long COVID. That is an area of specialized care and medicine. We were so captivated by what we heard that we asked her to come back and just allow us a few more questions. But since then, we have had other persons asking even more questions, and even medics too. We will come to those in a minute. Later in the program, we will look again to rural development and sports, and a matter raised by outspoken Principal Linville Wright, who slammed the lack of sporting facilities in the West to help develop the talents of young sportsmen and women from rural areas. But first, let me thank all of you who have joined us for this episode 205 of the Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast. We invite you to like and share the podcast and subscribe to the Frankly Speaking Jamaica YouTube channel. It's easy. Just a click. Now, we encourage you to send queries and make comments regarding this podcast by following the procedures explained at the top of the show, or just texting at the comments section. We always try to respond. Let me welcome Desmond Richards and Winnie Anderson Brown, our faithful panelists. So before we get going, there's a survey up on screen. It's supposed to be getting on screen now. And we're going to ask you to participate in the survey. It's a survey about what you think about the preparedness or readiness for stroke treatment in Jamaica. So let's get going with this new technology and welcome Dr. Francene Gayle, consultant stroke neurologist and CEO of the Everbrook Brain Institute. Dr. Gayle, welcome. Please help us understand what is transcranial pulse stimulation. We were asked that again. And where does the stamp of approval for its medical application come from? Where is it accepted to be used?
Thank you very much for having me. Transcranial pulse stimulation is classified as a non-invasive brain stimulation technique. It is therefore an office procedure where modified ultrasound waves can be safely and painlessly applied to the scalp, and the patient receives the benefit of neuro regeneration. We're excited about that. Approved, which is the approval standard in Europe. It is available also in Asia across places such as Thailand. It is also available in other parts of the South Pacific, in Australia, for example. As you were told last week, it is not available in North America. It's only available in our clinic, Everbrook Brain Institute and Cognitive Clinic in the Caribbean. And there are centers in Latin America that also offer this technology.
And one question we were asked is, you mentioned the FDA, you mentioned approval last week, but it's not FDA approved. How significant is that?
So the FDA has given TPS what is called investigational approval. That was about 4 years ago, which means that there is enough data available from other parts of the world to permit institutions in the US to begin their research on it with the view to obtain full FDA approval. And so Harvard University has been the university that has completed research on TPS. And that research has been published, and the approval is therefore in the hands of the FDA, awaiting the final sign-off. So that is where we are. And as I said last week, Health Canada has begun now to look at TPS and has provided also investigational approval to begin research in its jurisdiction.
Okay, beautiful.
Before you go any further, Dr. Gayle, is there any link between Canada and the FDA? Is there any kind of relationship between Canada and the FDA? Whether in practice
That's a great question.
or yes.
So Canada, similar to what I said last week, Canada has its own approval body. It's called Health Canada. Health Canada has extremely high standards for the approval of medical devices. And this is largely because of how its healthcare system is set up. The healthcare system is based on a universality concept. As long as an intervention is deemed to be medically necessary, any member of the population will receive it. And one of the means by which Canada obtains information about health is by reviewing the outcomes of the research from the FDA's research analysis. And so, as I said last week, oftentimes that involves looking at how the device, what are the outcomes within the research processes in the US. But of course, they are two separate entities.
Okay, Dr. Gayle, I want to ask you something. Sorry, you go ahead, Desmond, before I take on my question to Dr.
Yes, Dr. Gayle, I just want to know, good evening, I just want to know what you are doing or what is being done to publicize your your clinic in Jamaica so that more people get to know of it.
Well, we're currently having our media tour, and thank you for being a part of spreading the word. We've been on television. We have our own website. We also have our own Instagram and our own TikTok. And we are collaborating. We've reached out to the Ministry of Tourism because, as you can imagine, this is positioned as a wellness tourism venture. Also, we have been in collaboration with the Development Bank of Jamaica, and I have to thank its leadership, especially Dr. David Lowe, because from the moment we brought this business plan to them, they understood that vision. And in the launch that we had on March 10th, he spoke specifically of how proud he was of the healthcare innovation that is happening in Jamaica, and that Everbrook would become an exemplar. And he promised the commitment of his organization to ensure that we thrive. So there are a number of elements that are coming together, and we will continue to push the information because this is literally life changing. I cannot begin to tell you the outcomes that we're having in our clinic.
And that's where I want to go, but also to mention that I did see a very interesting, well-written piece in the Gleaner last week, Monday, a full piece on the clinic and your efforts with your husband and partner in the business. And it was a comprehensive piece on your clinic. But I wanted to ask about autism, because I was given 2 questions to ask you about autism. First of all, is autism under the present medical system in Jamaica now easy to diagnose here and easy and its treatment easy and accessible here in Jamaica? Autism in particular.
Boy, the simple answer is that the system is fragmented. Remember, we talked about systems of care last week, that it should not be that a parent is pulling teeth to get help. So transcranial pulse stimulation, let me start there, can treat autism. In fact, the data suggests that after just being exposed to induction, which is the introductory treatment, which is 6 sessions over 2 weeks, that a child, the scoring is able to change by 25% on one scale and even as much as 50% on another scale. That is mind-blowing, right? And then there is what is called a booster period, where that child is supported with our neuropsychologist, neurostimulation one-on-one with our neuropsychologist over a period of time, which can be up to a year, to ensure that the child continues to meet the milestones that are needed. So the system is fragmented. There needs to be more organization around the school system to support our individuals or children with autism. There needs to be more training of a part of the care team that is called the shadows. And we are looking at putting programs together to support those individuals, because it is a lot of contact time that they have with the children, and those contact times need to be productive. Also, there needs to be more accessibility to neuropsychologists who are trained to evaluate the children with autism. It is a technical skill, the assessments, and it has to be appropriate in order for the child to get the benefit and in order for the school system to be prepared for that child. And we have gotten a lot of feedback from the parents, and Everbrook Brain Institute and Cognitive Clinic is going to be responding in a holistic way to those pain points. So I'm inviting all the parents with children with autism, reach out to us. We have systems in place to help you navigate autism.
I have a question, Dr. Gayle. Sorry, Franklin. Is there an age range beyond which you're not able to help?
No, actually. We start TPS and our program as young as age 3, right? And the upper limit, in fact, we recently had an individual with autism as old as 35.
Okay.
Right? Okay. And the same applies to individuals with ADHD, because we are seeing individuals coming into the clinic as adults having challenges with memory, but really they are undiagnosed adults with ADHD. So again, systems of care.
Yes.
And so we are realizing the magnitude of the challenge. And so our team has already organized the pathways for each of these elements of care.
And I
So
wanted
there's
to
no
ask you,
upper limit
Doctor,
that we will not.
I understand that autism is a spectrum. I'm trying to find out from you what should parents look for, or what might they see that suggests in a young child that he's having autism
The
issues.
First of all, we have a well-organized pediatric care, whether it is from private pediatricians or from our child guidance clinics within the communities, right? So monitoring a child's milestones is the most important thing. You know, most Jamaicans know when a child is supposed to hold their head up, when a child is supposed to walk at age 1 or start babbling and talking by the time they get to age 1. So it's for the parents to realize those 2 key milestones, especially the inability to verbalize. That is usually the most significant one that parents say, wait a minute, what's wrong? Or the child is not interacting or socializing, right? Motor delays, such as, holding up of the head, rolling over in the crib, or not taking those first steps are also picked up. But most times it is the speech and the socialization that triggers the mom or the family members. Once that is noted, then the referral should kick in that, hey, you either go to the pediatrician, get evaluated. That pediatrician should then make a referral to either, the neuropsychologist. We have a neuropsychologist within our care pathway. I understand that some of the government structures may actually be overwhelmed, but we are here. We have refined our processes to get our patients in and out of our clinic in a very efficient way. The other thing too is when the school age child, I know that sometimes our schools are overcrowded, but as teachers, you have to pick up those challenges within the classroom. Learning challenges, socialization difficulties, repetitive behaviors, social isolation. Speak with the parents, right? And implore the parents to get the help. Schools. We have a lot of traditional schools and very little special education schools. And God bless the teachers who choose to go into special education. Mm-hmm. We need to incentivize more of our teachers to do so. We need more of our traditional schools to become more equipped to deal with our neurodivergent children. We can full times and make it more productive than it is right now.
Do I take this comment now,
Franklin? Go ahead, Winnie. Go ahead.
Yes.
I have another question.
Annalie Bernard says, a special needs child that hears and cannot talk will say a word or two sometimes. He is almost 6 years old and the mother cannot find a school in St. Anne to send the child. So that's a complaint? Yes.
Right. And this is it. That's what I'm saying. Our government needs to take a bird's eye view of the population's needs. When you look at the top 10 neurologic needs documented in the Lancet Neurology, autism spectrum disorder is among it. Mm-hmm. So it is not on the back burner, right? It is a necessity of our education system to adapt to include these very vital parts of our care. for our
Dr.
children.
Gayle,
They need.
we have been hearing so much about autism in recent years compared to a long time ago. Is this a development in the diagnosis, or is it something else that is happening in the population?
I think that speaks to every single neurologic disorder. It's a combination of increased awareness, and it is a combination of increased inciting factors and a combination of increased, let's just say increased media. So when I say awareness, it is knowledge in the population. There's an increased knowledge in the population, and therefore the population understands signs and symptoms, and there is an increase in the diagnosis, right? These individuals, these children would have been labeled by other names. Lord, Johnny Badding can't keep still. Johnny has ADHD. Lord, that the one that just sit down over there so I play with the toy and him buying. No, he has autism. So these children have always been with us, mislabeled. So that is the increased awareness now. Then you have increased inciting factors for various reasons, environmental, genetics. And now you have increased the means by which all of that knowledge can be spread. So
are there any plans to open rural offices soon?
It's an expensive outlay, isn't it?
Well, we have been asked that. So the mandate of Everbrook Brain Institute and Cognitive Clinic is to change the neurological landscape of Jamaica land we love. So stay tuned.
Okay.
That's all I think.
And how does the medical fraternity generally feel about this type of development, this type of technology?
Well, like anything else, information is strength. So in 2025, I had the privilege of presenting on neuroregeneration and non-invasive brain stimulation at our main symposium, the Medical Association, of Jamaica symposium in June of 2025. And it was extremely well received. At the end of my talk, the majority of physicians were asking, when is it coming to Jamaica? But at the time, I didn't want to say that I was acquiring this technology because,
yes,
I wanted to have it in hand and everything organized, before I said, yes, it's coming. But it was a tester for me to see, how would they grasp this technology? And they were excited. They were excited.
Dr. Gayle, last week you mentioned a gene, I think it was I mentioned a gene with regard a stroke gene that affects Jamaicans. Can you give us a little bit more explanation on that? Dr.
You're
Gayle,
breaking up. Go again.
I was saying that last week you mentioned a stroke gene among the Jamaican population. Can you give us a little bit more on that? Are you hearing me?
Yes. So, 25% of all strokes take place in the young. And by definition, a young person is less than 45. Some definitions include less than 60 as a stroke in the young. And so in relating to stroke patients in my clinic, and even when I was within the hospital setting here in Jamaica, about 25% of those patients had multi-generations of stroke. Meaning, I'll give you an example. So I had a 35-year-old man who came in with a massive stroke, and his mother had had a stroke when she was 55. And in taking the history, her mother had had a stroke when she was in her 50s, right? And so this is a recurring history that I get, multiple generations within families where individuals have stroke less than the age of 60. And when you ask, they don't always have the usual risk factors, the diabetes, the hypertension, the high cholesterol. So there are other factors that are happening, and it's genetic in etiology.
And how does that compare? Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. How does that compare?
I'm just asking you, how does that compare, those numbers compared to other populations or the general population elsewhere? Like the 25%?
Well, it depends.
Yes.
So it depends. It depends. So in every population, there are some vulnerable groups. So for example, in the US, there is a so-called stroke belt where the prevalence of stroke in the young is extremely high and may actually rival values that are higher than 25%. And so that is in the southern belt of the US. Then you have other populations, especially those from small island states, where there are not a lot of genetic redistribution. So I call it, there is a closed genetic loop in those smaller island states. Therefore, you will see an even higher percentage of stroke in the young. And, you know, in other environments, for example, in Canada, you will have indigenous populations that have a higher prevalence of stroke, for example. Then there are differences in causes of stroke based on ethnicity, whether it is because of intracranial atherosclerosis versus extracranial atherosclerosis. So there are some nuances depending on where you are in the world. But I am observing in Jamaica this multi-generational stroke in the young, and it is.
Thank you for raising it, Doctor. Thank you for pointing it out to us. Winnie, would you like to take some comments? I want to go back to
okay,
Doctor about
I'd go to Owen. I go to Owen because he is coming in for the first time. He says, it is said that autism is side effect of vaccination. So doctor can speak to that. And I'm going to say Williams 9544, not attempting the first part. I've had 2 TIAs, 2023 and 2025. And the next question, what do you think can be done to avoid these?
What's the TIA, please?
Before you answer, doctor, ADHD, those of us who know what it is, that's fine, but it is commonly used. So I have a request. Please make sure you tell us what that is when you say. Thank you. ADHD and TIA. Thank you.
Yes, all right. All right, let me see how many questions I can get through. So TIA, transient ischemic attack.
Vaccination.
It's a warning stroke. It usually
TIA.
Yes.
Yes, that's going to be my second question.
Yes.
And then the dementia question. So it's a warning stroke. So it has all the same signs of the stroke. it just lasts a very short time, usually a few minutes. The patient goes back to being normal. And the majority of the risk factors are non-communicable diseases. About 80% and 20% are very rare genetic etiologies. So as I said, the diabetes, the hypertension, the abnormal heart rhythms, your heart failure, your smoking, your obesity, those are the usual suspects, all right? So you have to meet all of those targets in order to prevent recurrence. Autism and vaccination, very, very controversial. That has actually been studied in a number of populations, and the data actually varies, right? Usually the vaccine that is MMR, but the data does not always hold true to that in each population. So it's a commonly held view, but the data does not always validate that. And the third question is the dementia. Dementia, yes. So often the cause of dementia is unknown. Genetics, yes. In fact, there is also a multi-generational gene for Alzheimer's dementia in Jamaica that I'm also noting. Medical conditions, stroke, tumors, toxins, chemicals, viruses. Well, we know a lot more now about the causes of dementia. About 80% of the causes are preventable causes. The other 20% include genetics. Believe it or not, the majority of the same comorbidities that put you at risk of stroke also put you at risk of dementia. And then you have some more or less unusual comorbidities that can line you up for dementia. For example, depression, believe it or not. Depression in midlife can put you at risk of dementia. Impaired hearing can put you at risk for dementia. And so the essence of it is that you have to maintain great vascular health and continue to be very, very involved and very connected and stay curious throughout your life course in order to prevent dementia. If you do have a genetic leaning, however, it requires a different level of intentionality. And for that, you should seek the assistance of a neurologist who specializes in cognition. So come on over to Everbrook Brain Institute and Cognitive Clinic, because that is what we do.
Doctor, we last week we were almost ending. We're almost ending now. On you mentioned that people who have had stroke a long time ago can still benefit from the treatment. Can you just mention that? Tell us again how that works. People who have had stroke some time ago, and how long would you say that would be for them to still be able to benefit?
Okay, so because TPS stimulates neuroregeneration, for those individuals who have had an infarct, meaning the blood clot type of stroke that has blocked a blood vessel and caused death to a section of the brain, if that surrounding area is stimulated, no matter how long in the past you have had that stroke, once you have brain that we can stimulate around your stroke, we can actually open back the potential for you to recover from that stroke. That's very important.
Mm-hmm.
And you said before, and you said that there are plans. You have financial arrangements that can be made for people facing the cost, because as far as we know, it's not cheap. It can't be cheap for patients who want to come in and
you're breaking
have a
up.
discussion with you. I'm breaking up. I'm sorry. But I wanted to attach myself to. Yes.
Yes. right? We do. We work along with our clients to help them to see if they can come and get access to our treatment. Yes.
And before you go, doctor, I just wanted to ask you that question that somebody there asked, but I don't think you had answered it. The person who said I've had 2 TIAs. How do you what can you do to prevent those? Because you suggested that there are some things that you can do. What can you do to prevent?
Yes, so
top of
all
the
of
list.
those causes that I say that again.
Yes, what would be at the top of the list, sort of, to prevent stroke? Not sure you're hearing me.
Yeah, she gave a
All right.
list
I'm not quite
earlier.
hearing,
Franklin.
but I gave a list earlier, so the individual would have to make sure that all of those, you know, the diabetes, hypertension, the high cholesterol, their sedentary lifestyle, being overweight, smoking, doing drugs. I've even talked about energy drinks, which is another topic all by itself. Heart failure, atrial fibrillation, all of those causes would have to be managed. Whatever is specific to the patient would have to be managed. And each patient, depending on the type of TIA, then we would determine what the cause of that TIA is. And it's only when the specific cause of the TIA has been corrected that you can prevent the TIA from happening. And that is where a stroke neurologist comes in, because not all TIAs are the same, right? And it's not just about slapping somebody on aspirin and saying, go about your business. It depends on where in the brain the issue is, because the cause is different depending on the location. All right?
Yes.
Dr. Gayle, we want to thank you again. I want to really thank you for taking us on this journey, helping us to understand a little bit more, and making this Everbrook Brain Institute and Cognitive Clinic available to us here in Jamaica, pushing us on the forefront of this medical technology. And I just want to give you 30 seconds to put your message out there to the general public, not the medics, but to a greater part of the population that might be interested in what you're trying to do at Everbrook.
So Jamaica, my name is Dr. Gayle. I'm a board certified stroke neurologist and healthcare consultant for quality. Come on over to Everbrook Brain Institute and Cognitive Clinic. We have cutting edge technology that can change your life. Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's disease, autism, ADHD, attention, hyperactive and attention deficit disorder.
Deficit hyperactive disorder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Traumatic brain injury and stroke and so much more. Come over. We want to help you. Thank you so much.
And your website, doctor, please, so that it can go on the screen so we can visit your website.
It's EBIC, EBICC.health. And they can find us. We are on Instagram, Everbrook Healthcare, and we're also Everbrook Clinic. So find us.
Okay. Thanks again, Dr. Gayle. You have been so helpful. And such a groundbreaking technology. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, we are going
All right,
to
Dr. Gayle.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
We are going to have a short break. We'll be right back after this break. We're going to be talking about what's happening in sporting facilities in Western Jamaica.
Right by the ocean. where the breeze is fresh, right by the ocean, where the breeze is fresh and the vibes are always right. There's a place where flavor meets paradise. Welcome to Roxborough Restaurant, Bar and Grill, your home for the finest seafood and authentic Jamaican cuisine. From bold, high-proof rum, to iconic lagers, to tropical cocktails that taste like sunshine, our bar brings the island spirit to life. Dine oceanfront, relax, and let every bite remind you why Jamaica is pure magic. Every first Sunday, don't miss at the Sea First Sunday Brunch. All-you-can-eat buffet for just $4,500 with live entertainment by Crazy Chris. Open Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Friday through Sunday, 8:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. Find us along the AGR Byfield Highway in St. Anne's Bay, right beside the Island Traffic Authority, and right next to Paradise. Roxborough Restaurant, Bar and Grill. Come for the food, stay for the vibe.
Welcome back. We're going to welcome Celine Vern Wright, Principal of William McKnight and President of the Jamaica Association of Principals of Secondary Schools. Mr. Wright was at the stadium during champs and wrote down his reflection on shameless politicians. The substance of his claim is there is so little for the development of sport in rural Jamaica, particularly in the West. But he'll be better able to explain it for us. Mr. Wright, welcome.
How are you doing, Franklin? Hi, Winnie.
Hi there. Good to see you.
How are you doing? Good to see you too.
Good. So tell us what I thought you had the stadium in Montego Bay and the other stadium in Trelawney, but you are saying you don't have much out there. Talk to us, Dr. Wright, Mr. Wright.
Well. How are you doing? Well, both of them are really not functioning as they ought to know. As you know, the Catherine Hall Stadium, I think, hosted Western Champs, I think, for the last time in 2019. Then I was principal at Rossi's. And the important things to speak to is that since maybe for the last 3 or so years, Western Champs have had to be hosted at GC Foster College. That's Central Jamaica, almost Kingston.
Almost Kingston, yeah.
Right. The DaCosta Cup finals, I'm chairman of DaCosta Cup. And the DaCosta Cup finals have been in Kingston for the last 3 years. Now, you imagine the kind of discussions we have to be having with people, defensive discussions in many instances, having to explain ourselves why these competitions are taken to Kingston. When rural schools want to run on a quality track, so you have champs coming up and you know that is the prime event we're going to have with a prime surface for people to run on. There's no track in Western Jamaica that allows for our children to get the kind of exposure we want them to get to that kind of feel. And those are things that I think we ought to address. I think I also spoke a little bit about culture. Because my argument is that sports and cultural infrastructure is something that we don't pay enough attention to. Not even just in Western Jamaica, in all of Jamaica. So you look at playing fields now all over the place. We really don't even have good surfaces for people to play safely. Schools have had to struggle to maintain these facilities because you don't get enough in terms of maintenance to do all of these things. You have to be checking with past students to do this. It means that a school that does not have a strong and wealthy past student association is going to be doing poorly if it is that you don't get this kind of help to assist you with your program. I don't think we should be running it like that.
Yeah. Let me ask you about it. Desmond, you go ahead. You go ahead, Desmond.
Yeah, what up to that new stadium in
Trelawney?
Well, that stadium has been built for almost 20 years. I don't know if they have done governments, over the different administrations, have done anything in terms of having any kind of serious maintenance plan for that stadium. So when I went there the last time, bird dung had taken over. I think they have tried to clean up some of that. The rust is there. the place is, I mean, really just run down.
Yes, I went there, Mr. Wright, and I saw it really run down, and cattle was over there and all of that. But what I wanted to suggest to you, and that part Desmond was raising, perhaps the schools, perhaps your principals association and the schools of that side of the world, and even schools almost in central and North Jamaica, perhaps you all could approach the government with a plan to significantly develop that stadium. It's pretty central, for at least for the sports side of it, if not for the culture side of it. Would that be something too far outside of the remit of principals who have also?
Well, I give you this. I mean, excellent point. And what I did from my standpoint at William Lib is that because I'm also Dakota Cup chairman.
Yes.
And one of the things I had known is that it was being managed from Kingston through the people who manage National Stadium. And I got in touch with them, and we got to have a few matches there for Dakota Cup. When William was playing, when Cedric Tite was playing, at certain points in Dakota Cup, we got that. But after a while, we heard that we really couldn't use it. They had to be using it for cricket. It was venue for so many different things, I think you heard. On the point of whether schools can take this up as a kind of investment, we just don't have the money.
I wasn't thinking about it as an investment, Sir Wright. I was thinking
we can manage it. I think schools can manage it. I think it would be a good idea for schools to manage it, because I think we manage these facilities well. What really is happening is that we're not trusted to manage them in the way, but I think that it is something that I don't know that we'll have a problem with. I certainly would have a problem with that.
Yeah, because the secondary school levels at least that has shown that you're all able at the Eastern level to manage this champs and to manage the processes going through to champs. And the Dakota Cup, for example, in the rural areas, is pretty well managed. And I don't know what is happening to that stadium. I heard that it was supposed to be leased and all sorts of things like that. But the point you raised is very important, because when you say that the Dakota Cup finals could not be held out, Dakota Cup is a rural school event, and had to be taken to Kingston. It's crazy.
But Franklin, the football fraternity in Western Jamaica could also join that group, join with the schools, with a plan to develop and manage that stadium.
Well, you have to get permission, because the struggle between government control and efficient management is one of the things that I think has been a problem in this. I think they know very well that we can manage. I think they are comfortable to come to the stadium and sit, and we're happy for that. It's not that we're not happy to see them coming and every Jamaican coming to enjoy themselves. But I think one of the things that ought to happen is that we can see what has happened in sports in Jamaica. Western Jamaica has done so much to produce, certainly the greatest athlete ever Western Jamaica has produced. And we have had other people. We have had the freighters. We have had one relay team had maybe 3 people from Trelawney on it. We have young Seymour coming. We have Douglas coming up. And we have had other individuals. So clearly, something about the Western Jamaica actually produces this kind of thing. The problem I personally have, and why I had to make up like that, when you look, for example, to expand on what I said, Western Jamaica does the most to earn foreign exchange for Jamaica. And you really, to me, it is shameful that we really do not have a proper cultural center. Oliver and everybody, all as Jamaicans, we enjoy them. They have to be scrambling to find places that are decent, that are about proper theater and theatrical performances to actually bring something to Western Jamaica. It's the same thing for football. We have to be struggling to find venues for many of these schools. And I also don't put it, I think there's a correlation, for example, between the fact that we have had a diminished interest in providing proper sporting facilities for the West and what has happened in terms of football in the Costa Cup for the West. The last time a Western school has won it was in 2017 when Russell's won it. Right? There are other factors, certainly, but I think that those are some of the things that we have got to look at. But my thing is that I believe that in a Jamaica that we're talking about a country that has been an economic miracle. it is a shame to me that in some parts of Jamaica, we don't have a decent playing field for these kinds of things to be happening for our children.
You're right. You raise a very significant issue about the cultural aspect there too, and a place, for example, some sort of a hall or a theater. For instance, look how many years we've been talking in Jamaica, though, even about a proper concert hall, in Kingston, but outside of Kingston at all. Not just in the West, but and I think it's a way that we look on things cultural. That it's not. It's almost a schizophrenic way that we consider the cultural aspects of the country. And even look. You see, Mr. Wright, I want to make this point about it. Look at how Jamaica has treated the ward theater.
Right.
And you see, it's not just about whether we get some facilities out in the rural parts, but it's a deprived way of looking at culture and cultural issues.
And it is because we look at these things as being inferior. People see, people don't understand spirituality, Their notion of spirituality that is about church. I don't have that view of it. That's an aspect of it. Spirituality is about where you're coming from and those things that allow your people to both observe and reenact what it is that's about them. So your reggae music does that kind of thing, or dances do that kind of thing, or plays do that kind of thing. There's nobody who is a better representative of Jamaica than an Oliver Samuels overseas, because when people see him, that's Jamaica flying, Jamaica walking, Jamaica talking. He can go to represent Jamaica anywhere in the world, and he does it proudly. What we are not doing, so for example, in many of our schools, you really don't have a space, and you have to start in your schools. You don't have, when we build our schools now, we don't build them with little spaces for students to do theater. We don't do that. We build them, and we're talking about a kind of gentler society. We have got to do that. Western Jamaica has just come out of maybe being one of the worst in terms of crime. All of those things, people have no outlet in sports, in terms of sporting facilities, in terms of theater facilities, in terms of places for children to go to learn to dance. All of those things are things that we have got to think of as a country. So when you're thinking of an economic infrastructure, we have got to look at it as an ecosystem. We're to complement those kinds of things almost in an equal way. We have got to think of that side of our people that's going to make them proud of themselves, proud of Jamaica, and wanting to preserve this place, whether it's Western, Central, or Eastern Jamaica.
Let's bring in Owen Richards at this point. Let's bring in Owen Richards, who says Jamaica is missing out on a lot of income from sports and entertainment tourism.
And I would buy that too, but even without looking at the income side of it, it's how culture, for example, that Mr. Wright is talking about, creates a type of being that you want in the society, that somebody who's lost some of the rough edges, and our society is not catering for that. Desmond.
Franklin, I think that your suggestion, the sporting fraternities in the West should take up on your suggestion, that they should come together and advance a plan to manage that sporting facility, because that is built already. All it needs is management and further development. So I think that the sporting fraternity should take up on your suggestion to put forward a proposal to manage it.
But you know those things that happen though, Desmond. Not necessarily from a sporting fraternity, but I know of persons, I can't speak to it now here because they didn't tell me to say that they have. But people have approached the government about this, but they're not serious about it in my mind. And I think, as I said, I mean, what you really want is leadership, and maybe it doesn't necessarily mean money, but there has to be leadership in understanding that these things are important. And we've got, in the same way we find investors to build hotels and maintain and do whatever. If it is that culture is a serious thing as tourism is, as building concrete structures is, because I'm not diminishing or I'm not belittling any of this. But I'm saying alongside these things, a cultural center, your sporting facilities, we have got to try to find investments to build these things because your people need these things. Anyway, we need housing. There's a need for entertainment. There's a need for cultural. There's a need for our respecting our cultural heritage by being exposed to it, by our children developing that kind of affinity to what belongs to them and owning it and being happy about it because we have created an atmosphere through these facilities to help them to nurture that kind of approach to things.
Well said, sir. And I thought that when you made those comments on your Facebook page at Champs, I thought that it was significant because you were not just speaking about the reading and writing and mathematics and the STEAM as they're regularly talking about now, but you're talking about building a fuller person. And we're going to close off here quickly, but I was thinking that in recent time, a few years ago, they used to be able to bring some plays from Kingston to the rural areas. After a while, the guys who were involved told me that it was just too expensive to carry them or to expose people. In other words, to expose people in the rural areas to some of that. And I always thought, even at that time, whether it was the job of something like the JCDC to help promote those activities in the rural communities. There are people in rural Jamaica who have never been able to go to see any sort of play whatsoever, regardless of quality. So it's about our culture, it's about how we look at it, and it's about that finishing that you are speaking, Mr. Wright. Yes. And I'd love to give you the last word on this as we wrap up.
I mean, my thing, sometimes people see this thing as bashing. My thing is just to contribute to that conversation. I am in this school, I'm seeing the need. Yeah. I'm seeing the need for us to look at infrastructure and support for the sporting infrastructure, because that's where I think we have a significant advantage. We are punching way above our weight as a country. But what we have not done in something that we have as a winner in a country, in something that everybody has everybody transfixed, the champs, athletics. It's still one of those things people still go to sport there and want to see what is happening. I think our cultural agents, those persons who are in charge of culture and government, need to look at these things. Culture and sports, we need to look at ensuring that we get these things going so that people can have the support, so that schools can do these things much better and assist our students in becoming the best we know many of them can be.
Yes.
Thank you very much. That's our show for today. Thanks to Desmond Richards and Winnie Anderson Brown, our regular panelists, and to producer Joshua Black of Joshua Black Media Services. Joshua, you had put up the poll, the survey. Can you give us the results? Or you're not ready for us on that? Joshua?
Well, unfortunately, I'm so sorry, Mr. McKnight. It seemed like our viewers were unable to pick up the poll from this side of the screen. However, probably next week when we put out the poll, we'll have it more interactive for them. So it was requiring for them to just type a number, but unfortunately we didn't get that chance. Nobody had responded.
Okay, all right. Okay. But you had some responses from last week, but you don't have those at hand either.
Yes, it would be 67% of the 6 persons say they were satisfied with the fact that stroke,
just remind people, how confident are you? Just reminding them that how confident are you that Jamaica would provide quality care if you had a stroke? That was the question. And the response was...
And 6 persons, and out of that we had 67% of them saying they were satisfied. And we had about, how much was that? 1 person said that they were not satisfied, and 1 said they were unsure. They were not sure.
Interesting.
Thanks to you, thanks to Dr. Francene Gayle, consultant stroke neurologist, and Linvern Wright, principal of William Nibs. Special thanks to you, and thanks to your viewers and listeners. Remember, you can watch this podcast again at your convenience by clicking the same promotional link or going to the Frankly Speaking Jamaica YouTube channel, podcast number 205. On behalf of all of us, I'm Franklin McKnight as we go out on our viewers' song.
The lights go up, the mics are lit. We're feeling that energy, that Sunday drive. Whether you're here while the clock is ticking or catching the replay, the plot is thickening. From the very first word to the final